the impeachment inquiry and how seriously he's pushing to keep Republican senators, potential jurors, remember, in line. CNN's Evan Perez is breaking the news. He joins us now. What have you learned?
Well, Anderson, one of the things we've learned is that the president is so consumed with this impeachment inquiry that he's now calling Senator McConnell as many as 3 times a day. Now, this is something that the majority leader has had to deal with before. At the height of the Mueller inquiry, the president was so exercised that he was doing the same thing. Now, what the president is worrying about is keeping senators in line. He is worried about disloyal senators, something he's already started tweeting about in recent days. He says that some senators are not being loyal enough and that they should be holding the line. Now, this is something that McConnell is going to have to be dealing with for the long term, obviously. He wants to make sure senators who are going to be the jurors, should Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats impeach the president, he's going to need those people to hold the line. And the president is increasingly lashing out, telling the majority leader that he believes that some of these senators need to hold the line on what the White House is telling them to do.
Evan, stay with us because I want to bring in CNN legal analyst Laura Coates, CNN senior political analyst David Gergen as well, and CNN political commentator Joe Lockhart. He, of course, served as press secretary in the Clinton White House and is currently co-host of the podcast Words Matter. David, first of all, what do you make of Evan's reporting? Because the whole notion that the president is conducting business as usual and isn't solely focused and consumed by the impeachment inquiry, if he's calling McConnell 3 times a day, that seems to suggest otherwise.
It does. He's been aptly compared to King Lear, fighting off the darkness. He's obviously preoccupied, and you can understand why. But I must tell you, in none of the reporting about what he's preoccupied with is there any mention of what's good for the country, the principles we ought to have as a people, what it is he's trying to uphold. It is all about personal survival and, personally, beating the other side.
Well, it's also, David, about revealing who the whistleblower is, which, again,
yes.
I understand why he wants that for his own reasons, but in terms of for the good of the country, I mean, yes. if he reveals, if the whistleblower is blown on this and revealed, I mean, that's a chilling message for anyone else who may ever want to even consider being one.
I think that if he were to blow the cover of the whistleblower and by whatever nefarious means, they could potentially add that to another charge on the impeachment. That would in effect be an obstruction because he really is trying to put a chill on anyone else coming forward. And by the way, he's obviously subjecting the person who is the whistleblower to enormous personal risk.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, even by, saying publicly, this person is not a real whistleblower, this person is a liar, I'm not even sure this person exists, there's a tantamount to being a spy, we don't want spies in the White House. I mean, he is sending a message to other whistleblowers and trying to intimidate them. What do you make, though, Joe, of calling McConnell, according to Evan Perez, up to 3 times a day, telling him he's going to amplify attacks on Republicans who criticize him?
Well, he's worried about the right problem, which is his problem is not with Democrats. Democrats, he's lost. His firewall is the Republicans and the Republican senators in particular. A strategy of going after them and trying to intimidate them works when you're in a position of strength. His position is weakening day by day, so I don't know that will work. In 1998 with President Clinton, we focused almost all of our efforts on Democratic senators because that's what protected us. But I completely agree with what David's saying. It's the big difference between then and now is this president is consumed with it, and he's letting the public know he's consumed with it. He's not worried about the people. He's not worried about his job. He spends all day long and increasingly all night long tweeting about this, whining about it, showing how afraid he is, and he's revealing. And I think it very much weakens his case. And if you're a Republican senator, you're looking and you don't like the trend.
Laura, just from a legal standpoint, I mean, has he already set himself up for perhaps more obstruction charges, or at least compounding the the things he's already said?
He is compounding it. What he's doing is essentially he's giving more ammunition to say that he is going to engage in obstruction of Congress, essentially. Remember, this is the president saying, I'm the law and order president. And one of the roles of the president of the United States is to faithfully execute the laws and ensure they're actually being executed. If he's taking a position and saying, look, I'm not even going to comply with the subpoena at this junction, and where we are right now, Anderson is saying this is before even one article of impeachment has been drafted. He's saying he's not going to cooperate. He wants to be a part of the investigation. He wants to know, as if it was a grand jury witness, he wants to know who that person is and sit in on the proceedings, essentially. That is not done. It's really a premature request and a premature anxiety. But on the other hand, doesn't this help his court of public opinion argument that says, look what happens when you have an impeachment? Your president is being consumed. Your president is being consumed by things other than what you care about in terms of kitchen table issues. Healthcare is not in my wheelhouse right now. Gun control is not an issue for me right now. It's this. And in that vein, about polling and thinking about that, that has an impact on whether the public is carried along. But that larger issue of abuse of power, that's still going to be there, and the more he abuses it, the more ammunition they get.
I'm not sure gun control or healthcare has ever been in his wheelhouse, but Evan, what more are you learning about the president's overall view of this impeachment fight?
Well, look, I mean, he looks at this, Anderson, as a purely political thing, and that's the reason why, you know, in these phone calls with Mitch McConnell, he is pressing him to try to keep these Republican senators in line. He believes that, you know, the strategy here is simply to make sure that this is a partisan issue. This is about his reelection, after all. And by the way, I should note, I failed to mention that we reached out for comment from Mitch McConnell's office, and we did get a comment from Doug Andres, and I'll read you just a part of it. It says that they're disputing that Mitch McConnell ever related some of this to some of his fellow Republicans. And he says, where is it here? Okay. This story, based on a single anonymous source, is categorically false. Leader McConnell never said anything like this. Again, they're disputing that Mitch McConnell has told fellow Republicans about some of his interactions with the president. And you can understand why. The president and Mitch McConnell have forged a very tight relationship in the past year. This despite, you know, for so long the president was criticizing establishment figures like Mitch McConnell. He needs Mitch McConnell very, very much now, and Mitch McConnell, frankly, needs the president to stay focused in order to protect him.
David, the president is also going after the person or persons who gave the information to the whistleblower, saying he doesn't want to have spies in the White House. It's interesting to me that he's so focused on the whistleblower, because it seems like the whistleblower at this point isn't even really the question anymore. I mean, everything the whistleblower has said has turned out to be true, or mostly true, and there's the transcript and the president's own comments which prove that.
Well, I think that it's conceivable the whistleblower has some details that haven't been drawn out yet. And so I wouldn't dismiss the whistleblower's account. I do think it could have some importance. But I also think, though, Anderson, when the American people have a sense that the rage and the obsession and the sort of the craziness that's coming out of the White House, that's going to make more and more people feel uncomfortable about having him serve as president for another term. I think this is the way he is acting is making it worse, not better, in my judgment, for his command and leadership of the country.
Joe, it's interesting, though, to hear Evans reporting that the president is concerned that, you know, senators aren't being loyal enough. Really, the senators haven't really, most Republican senators haven't really said anything other than Mitt Romney. They have been critical of what the president has done to the Kurds, the betrayal of the Kurds. I'm not sure if that's part of his calculus, that he doesn't like what Lindsey Graham is going around saying, and that's part of this.
Yeah, listen, I think there's...
Sorry, Joe, go ahead, Joe.
I think there's been a little bit of a trickle, and I think that worries the president and his team. You've seen Senator Collins, Senator Portman, Senator Sass say things like, you know, the president shouldn't be reaching out to China and, you know, making that while staying silent on Ukraine. Listen, the president's relationship with both the House and the Senate, when anyone has crossed him, is to try to crush them. Mark Sanford's running for president right now because he crossed for president and the president got him defeated in a primary. He has a stranglehold on the Republican Party right now. The problem is these senators, many of whom are up for re-election in the cycle in 2020 and have to face their voters, are sitting and waiting to see what else will come out. And that's what this big struggle is. Will the president be able to keep all of the details, at the White House and keep Congress from getting them? Because as this gets worse, Republicans will make a calculation at some point, whether it's in their interest